Welcome, everybody. I'm the General Sin-seer, and tonight we have a very, very special guest. We have DJ, producer, the legendary Dr. Butcher. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Yes, sir. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. We want to go back in history, get to know everything about you, and work our way up to 2024. For those who may never known, because you're very seldom seen, can you take us back to where you're born and raised?
Born and raised in New York, Queens, New York, to be specific. Corona. I lived in Brooklyn for a little while. Then my family moved to Queens. And that's where it all started for me. You know, school, hip hop started around the same time. That was like probably late 77, 1977, 78-ish. And I was encapsulated with that stuff ever since, dude. Like hip hop just grabbed me. And I was surrounded by DJs and MCs everywhere. So, but I was a little pup, so I couldn't do much but listen. Above me, I had a whole crew across the street from me everywhere, dude. So I just loved it. I was absorbed, man, like no other. My mother happened to work at a record plant, so I could write down songs and give it to her. When she come home from work, she'd bring the albums and records back home. So that was like joyful for me, man. I would just sit in the living room listening to music all day.
You had the plug before the plug was a word, huh?
Yeah, man. I have my own little record collector at home, you know, in my plug. Yeah. Yeah, grab me these joints. Yeah.
As a teenager, what would you say some of your hobbies and interests were besides music?
Art. I like to draw. I don't know, man. I was just an active kid. You know, everybody played the video games and just coming up the old video games, Atari and all that stuff. But sports, not a lot of sports. You know, we're in the city, we like to play handball. We were creative with our sports. You know what I'm saying? So things like that. But the music, you know, I was just at that point. I was probably 9 or 10 years old when all that stuff set off. So I was just in that place that when hip hop came around, I just delved into it like no other. And that's all I wanted to do.
Right. So initially, how did you get into hip hop first? You were an MC, breakdancing. What was Dr. Butcher's first foray into hip hop?
I think everybody was MCing and breakdancing.
Right.
So I stuck with the MCing because I was so young. My parents would not purchase a DJ setup. You know, they weren't trying to go there. My mom purchased me a Gemini mixer one year for Christmas, but no turntables, so I could just plug it up and turn it on and turn it off. And I got a lot of joy out of doing that too. But you know, that's as far as it went. So I had to go to the pen and just get crafty with the lyrics and so forth. And lucky for me, my cousin lived below another guy named Vinny, who was a producer, a DJ, and a writer. He had severe asthma, so he couldn't go to school. So he stayed home. He just read a lot of books, and he was really smart, articulate, and he got into writing, and he had a setup, and he was like one of the best DJs I had ever seen in my life. Next up, Cut Creator had the original Cut Creator had moved across the street from me, and I saw him and ran over to his house and got to know him and his family. They invited me in, and I started practicing on the turntables through him. But again, I stayed with the lyrics and stuff. You know, he was already nice on the turntable, so I was like, let me get good with on the lyrics and so forth. So I just focused on that. You know, I got pretty known. That's when me and G-Rap met. I was touted as like the best in my neighborhood along with Cool G-Rap. I met LL during that time and a host of other well-known rappers and so forth. So I did pretty well in that arena.
No doubt. To clarify, the DJ was Philly Phil, right?
Cut Creator Philly Phil, yeah. Not the same Cut Creator that's on LL's records. That was a different guy.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about the talent show and meeting LL.
So there was a talent show in my high school, August Martin High School. Russell Simmons attended that high school. It was called a Rap Attack. And a local rapper from Jamaica, Queens named Playboy Mikey D, he was the big guy. I wasn't familiar with the area. I had just started going to school there, but he was the big guy in the neighborhood. And when everyone started hearing me, they were having me battle everybody. And they said, we're going to get Mikey D for you. I'm like, okay. But when he came up there, he was like, I'm not battling this guy. I was probably 4'11". He's like, I'm not battling this little kid. So he said, but I got somebody for you. and he brought this guy named Richard Romaine, who ended up becoming my partner, Royal Rich, who was nice. And, you know, we're going back and forth. And I was like, oh, this cat is crazy and stuff. So everybody's like, y'all guys are short. Y'all need to create a crew. And so we did. It was extravagant too. And we did it for the talent show. And LL was there with his neighbor, a guy named Cal. And Cal and L, Maxwell C, I forgot what they call themselves. But Cal was pretty good. But L, when he heard us, he was like, yo, man, you guys are incredible. Like, we're going to form a crew when this is over, the Extravagant 3. But L was like 6'2". You know, we were these little guys. So it was kind of awkward. But, you know, he was so nice. So he was like, when I heard him, I was like, yo, this dude is crazy. Like, you know, he was definitely next level, which I like, you know, helped me step my game up. You know, the dude was crazy. So from there we did, you know, we rocked for about 9 months. And then from there, he went on to make records. I Need to Beat and stuff. And by chance, when I went back home, I was telling everybody about this new guy I met, specifically him. Cut Creator came on one day and he was like, hey, Drew, but the guy he was talking about, would he happen to be like a tall, lanky kid who wears Kangos all the time and talks all day? I was like, yeah, that's him. Well, he said, because he's in my school now. He was in a private school called Christopher Robbins in Jamaica. And L left school and they enlisted him in that school and stuff. And they met. And so when L did the record, he trusted me that Cut Creator was nice and brought him to do the scratches on I Need to Beat and Dangerous. So that's how, that took off. But he left there. He didn't want to leave school. L was asking him to leave school. He didn't want to do that. He was definitely a scholarly type of guy, pursuing engineering, an engineering degree and so forth. So he wasn't trying to leave school. So that's when L got his road manager named Phil Pot and took the name and gave it to Phil Pot, a.k.a. Cut Creator Philly Phil. So it just happened to work out. But that guy was nothing like the original Cut Creator whatsoever. Right. Yeah.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
Talk a little bit about transitioning from MC to DJ.
There was no transition. I DJ'd all along. I just didn't have my own turntables, but Vinny, Cut Creator, Polo, all of these guys would let me get on their set. And even when I was breaking needles, they let me get on their set. I was just a wild kid. And but when I went to college, after high school, going to college, I bought my own set. And it was like night and day. Finally having a set of 1200s, dude, I can't express to you. It just took DJing for me to another level. And I was always passionate about it. So after college and after going to work, I would come home, man, and just spend the rest of the evening, probably till 11, 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, just on the turntables, just going bananas. And I would go to all the battles, all the DMC and seminars, and quietly just sit in the back of the room watching everybody. And I didn't tell anybody what I was doing, so no one knew I was a DJ at the time. But I was studying everything and everyone. And it just helped me go home and pick my own skills up and then apply everything I already knew. So I think that helped me a lot.
Right. Did you ever participate in any of those battles?
No, I don't know, man. There was something about the competitions. I felt as though the people who own the competitions were taking advantage of the kids, the young, the talent. And I don't know, I just never, because when I would look what they were wearing, jackets and maybe a turntable, there was no real money. They weren't sending you on world tours. They weren't pairing you up with artists to go on world tours or even tour the States, tour abroad, anything like that. That generally happened because an artist was in the crowd. It was like, oh, I want you to be my DJ. And they would go grab them, things like that. But they weren't doing anything. They weren't really paying you any money. And I was like, I don't want that. LL had taken off. Beatnuts, G-Rap was taking off. I was around enough people at the time. I was a little schooled to what was going on. And I just felt like they were taking advantage of the kids and stuff, And I wanted to keep things pure, So I didn't enter. I just kind of sat. I was just a fan of the DJs, checking everybody out and, then doing my own thing.
Right. At what point do you meet Juju, and what were you witnessing earlier on as far as the Beatnuts?
Juju, I knew Juju when I was in grade school, dude, and he was my DJ. We had a guy in our neighborhood who had a setup. I went to school with the guy's wife, and Juju would come get me, and he would be on the turntables, and I would just rap, and we'd make these little mixtapes, so-called mixtapes nowadays. And so our relationship started there. Later on, I introduced him to the Large Professor and various people, and he became known as a producer and got with Les. And then my cousin Fashion was the main rapper, and they formed the Beatnuts. And so they would bring me in to do scratches, and then like Chi Ali's father was a manager. He loved me. He would bring me in to do scratches on Chi Ali's projects. He had the 5 kids, the youngsters from Philadelphia. I just started getting around to various places, but that's when me and Juju started, you know, just in the neighborhood. He was from my neighborhood, so.
Right.
Came up.
Now you talked about getting DJing earlier on. Who at this time were some of your influences? Who are you looking up to?
You got to start with Grandmaster Flash, the pioneers, man. Grandmaster Flash, Jazzy J, DST, Tony Tone. The main pioneers that you would hear all the time were probably the best. And then in my neighborhood, I had the Disco Twins. They were out battling Flash and things like that. So those were my direct connects that I didn't know them, but I would walk by their grocery store every day and go inside and pretend I was playing Pac-Man just so I could get a visual of them. You know, and so that was pretty funny. But I met them later on, you know, and I was well into my craft then, and, you know, they were like amazed at what I could do on the turntables and so forth. They had gotten into the production world, and they're like my big brothers, you know. Ever since that time, we became like brothers and stuff. But they were like, you know, Polo wasn't known as tableist or crafty DJing like that. You know, Polo was the fly guy who had the cars and all the pretty women in the neighborhood. So I have to be like you, dude. So I hung around him all the time too. But he would show me his gear. He's the first person to show me what 1200s look like, actually. And when I went in his room, he also had up all these photos of him with these nude women. He performed in strip clubs. He was DJing clubs. And I was like, oh man, this is what you get to see as a DJ. I was sold, dude. So, you know, that started there as a little kid. Yeah, he had me, but, you know, they thought it was funny. But them dudes looked after me. I was like the little pup around everyone. So, you know, it was a blessing for me.
Right. Before getting with the X-Men, were you in any other DJ crews?
None. None at all. Juju introduced me to Rob Swift. Then Sin-seer hung out with a cat of mine, named brother named Artie, who was actually in a rap group with G-Rap called the Racketeers. And we all met. We would go to battles together, rap battles, and, you know, battle cats. And he came to me one day and he was like, yo, I have this guy, this young dude. He's pretty good, but I don't think he's your caliber, and I want you to see him. You know, he's kind of a little cocky. I was like, sure, bring him through. So Sin-seer comes over. I said, yo, but do your thing. He's on the turntables, getting busy. He said, let me see what you got. I got him. He just sat down. He was, you know, he was just like, oh man, dude, why'd you do that? You know, and he was like, yo, I need to come back, and just became like an understudy. You know, kind of. It was similar then with Rob, but it was different. You know, Juju was playing a joke on Rob and invited him over, and me and Rob just got tight ever since, because Rob was really determined to get into those competitions and things like that. Because I had no interest, I was like, I'll work with you though. I've been to a lot of the competitions, so I can tell you what we need to do. And that's how we developed our relationship. And then I met Raider later on.
As far as the X-Men, what kind of dues did you guys pay earlier on to get your name out there?
We didn't have. So I met the X-Men through my man DJ E. Kim. He knew Steve D, and he was like, "Hey, I want to take you to meet Steve D," and he did. And through Steve, I met Sean C, Fat Man Scoop, Rock Raider, who I think was just starting to kind of get into it, and a few other cats. Diamond J, DJ Diamond J was down with us at the time. And, you know, but at the time, it was just me and him, you know, and we were showing stuff. But I couldn't really get off at Steve's house because he liked to keep his turntables in his chest. And it's difficult to adjust to that. You know, you feel like your arms up here and you can't really do much. But we all agreed to kind of get together. I brought Rob out there. They liked Rob. And then we just started attending local battles. And the name just circulated. You know, I even those battles I wouldn't join. I would train and battle with the crew. We would all battle each other like 3 or 4 times a week. But I didn't join any of the battles that we were attending. I felt like I wanted to be the X factor, just in case something happened, then I would come in. But no one ever tried to call us out at all. You know, it was just them battling everybody, and then always the Supermen were at the end of the chain. You know, it always ended up battling them. But I was close to Clark Kent were really cool, so we kept things civil. It would get heated up from time to time, but he and I kind of kept